So, what role do you think stress plays in your life now as you're, treating yourself, and in the past, in terms of what may have contributed to having cancer in the first place? Do you think there's a link?
Definitely. Definitely. I believe stress plays a major role in terms of illnesses, whatever illness you're going through. It could be cancer, could be anything. It really does affect, because before I was diagnosed, I went through a lot of stress. I lost a lot of my family members, and then I was divorced, and then I had to move house. I sort of, like, in 1 year I had bereavement and moving house and divorce in 1 year at one point, and then after I was diagnosed and went through doing all the various treatment protocols that I did, and I was doing really well. Like 6 years later, stress struck again, and things started going downhill again. And I was convinced it was due to the stress, because nothing else changed. I was doing exactly the same thing I'd been doing for the previous 6 years.
And it was another bereavement.
It was another bereavement, 2 in 1 year.
So that is just a huge amount of loss to deal with, isn't it? And does that also precipitate you into sort of wondering, life and death for yourself? What's the point? It's such an enormous experience, isn't it, to lose somebody close? Yeah,
it is. And in terms of life mortality for myself, is like, well, we all have to die. Even people that are not dealing with that sort of serious diagnosis, they just have, like, some of them die within a short period of time. So what's the point of me even trying? So maybe that makes things worse as well, because then I can't be bothered to be so strict in terms of trying to help myself. So how about you? What do you feel about that?
I definitely, I had a lot of things happen in a few years as well. I also got divorced. And although that was a kind of, I don't know, friendly separation, as good as it can be, I think it left me thinking, well, how old was I? I don't know how old I was, but, knocking on 50, and what am I going to do now? And then my mum had a series of accidents and illnesses, and finally a stroke, and I became her full-time carer. And I think blow by blow by blow,
takes its toll.
Well, I was sort of left not really knowing what I was sort of moving towards in my own life. So I think I had a bit of an enormous existential crisis probably in the middle of it all. And in some sense, the diagnosis kind of woke me up, because it was like, I can't wait now for 5 years or until the situation changes. Time is really now. And actually, it really woke me up that I had to look after myself. Look after myself didn't mean that I was going to do alternative treatment, but that I had to consider myself first,
as opposed to putting others
rather
first.
Than I'll consider myself in a few years' time, when everything's different. And so actually it was a massive wake-up call, and in some sense I think incredibly helpful, and I think I sort of got it. And even my dear old mum, she said to me, you wouldn't have left me for anything less than cancer, would you? And I thought, no, actually I wouldn't. So it's strange. And I think probably, I don't know if I presume I've got a slow growing cancer, but I remember many years ago lying on my stomach and feeling like there was something in the way. And I can't tell you how long ago that was. Decades. And now I think about it, it never occurred to me that was anything bad. I just thought, I'm getting older, and why would you have things in the way? I don't know. So I reckon my whole way of dealing with life is a stress reaction. I was a producer in TV, so you got a lot of stress there. So somehow stress kind of propelled me as a fuel. And so I guess I've just been constantly in fight or flight mode.
Yeah.
And on some level, those poor cells are just completely worn out and screaming and saying,
slow down.
yeah, just stop, I'm fed up with this. And therefore, you know, when you're saying, you know, you were getting a lot better and then there was another bereavement and another stress and then things got worse again. And I'm thinking, that surely is the terrain of any kind of chronic disease, isn't it? That when you're relaxed and you're managing to look after yourself well, the body really responds and things work well. And when you're under pressure and you're feeling pushed down for whatever reason, it manifests literally on a cellular level. And Bruce Lipton talks about that in his book, doesn't he? And it's very, he writes about that very clearly, and it just makes a lot of sense to me.
Definitely.
So when you are trying to heal, we can't avoid stress, and we can't avoid life, and we can't avoid sad things. I mean, they're going to happen, aren't they? But I suppose we have more motivation to try and manage that stress differently and learn different ways of
dealing with it,
of responding to it. Because you know, however I used to do it obviously didn't work well. No.
But at the time when I suffered the second set of bereavements, I thought I was dealing with it, and I thought I was in the right place to deal with anything that life is going to throw at me from now on, and I still was just knocked.
And then you realise actually that we're not in control of anything very much, are we? And I don't know, we can do our best, but that's really all we can do. And like you said earlier, there's no guarantees
either way
about anything, really. So,
and to me that's the important thing. Once you accept that there's no guarantee either way, that actually takes away the fear.
And the pressure of responsibility. Like it's all on you to fix yourself. You must be able to because it's possible. Well, we don't know, do we?
No one knows.
No. And can you live with the not knowing?
Well,
that's
the other choice.
No, but that's the question, isn't it? Can we live with the not knowing? And can we? I wrote. Somebody put on Facebook the other day that none of us gets out of here alive. Which I thought was a really good. We don't, do we? So
exactly, and we all know that, you know, we all have to die
at some point.
And for me, that has, I think, my belief has actually helped me in that respect.
Yes.
Because you know that you're gonna die, but if you have faith, then that's something to believe in, and that helps you cope with the uncertainty.
Yeah.